Host, I've been trying to inform you, host, please, AU host. I've been sending messages to be assigned as host, AU host. I've been trying to send
All right, I think we can get this event going. Good afternoon and a good morning, or good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and all our distinguished guests. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this Intergenerational Dialogues Youth event co-hosted by AFTA and the AU Office of the Youth Envoy to celebrate Africa Integration Day, which was commemorated yesterday on July 7th. My name is Cindy Zamora Bernard, and I am the team lead and coordinator for the IGDs at the Office of the Youth Envoy. It is my honor to be your event MC for today. And before we start our program, I'd like to recognize and give thanks for being with us today, two of our commissioners, the Commissioner of Human Resources, Science and Technology at the AU, Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Agbo, and Commissioner for Trade and Industry at the AUC, His Excellency Albert Muchanga. Additionally, I'd like to recognize, of course, the AU Youth Envoy, Ms. Aya Chebu, who will be the moderator for the IGD panel that we'll have during this event today. And a very warm welcome to all our panelists and to all the participants. Please kindly note that this event has both English and French interpretation, along with a poll that we ask all participants to answer. And so hoping that everyone is ready, and without any further delays, I'd like to invite Her Excellency Commissioner Sarah to take the floor for the opening remarks at this time. Your Excellency, the floor is yours, respectfully for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I want to personally, and on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Dr. Musa Faki Mahama, welcome everyone to the intergeneration dialogue titled The Role of Young People in Accelerating Africa's Integration through the AFCFTA in commemoration of Africa Integration Day that was celebrated yesterday. The COVID-19 crisis is more than a public health emergency. It has undoubtedly changed the complexion of public focus, perhaps permanently, on socio-political, economic, and even environmental issues. The global crisis has caused severe social and economic disruption, as many people are now unemployed and businesses badly hurt in the wake of the global lockdown as governments struggle to contain the crisis. Prior to the onset of COVID-19 crisis, young people in Africa are most especially vulnerable to the economic upheavals of the pandemic, not only in terms of monumental job losses, but also violence against female youths exacerbated by countrywide lockdowns that have created the perfect storm for more violence against young women. The pandemic is also having an unprecedented effect on education systems all over the world, with far-reaching social and economic consequences for our own youth. Although Africa has a relatively low fatality rate, young people, unfortunately, are now even more at risk of being left behind in education, health, and well-being, and economic opportunities during a crucial stage in their development. The International Labour Organization estimates that the first month of the crisis resulted in a drop of 60% fall in the income of informal workers globally. This translates into a drop of 81% in Africa, where between 70 to 90% of youths are employed. Without alternative income sources, these youths and the families they support will have no means of survival. Millions are now neither in education, employment, nor training. So far, policies and actions to reverse the vulnerable conditions for young people have taken many upward and downward turns. But none is more poignant than the marginalization of young people in taking an active role in trade policy, and trade governance in Africa. Creating the conditions for meaningful participation by all societal members, including marginalized groups, particularly the youths, in trade policy making processes can contribute to achieving inclusive growth, sustainable development, as well as social stability needed for economic integration. Unlike in Asia and Europe, where youths are the drivers and beneficiaries of cross-border and international trade, the inclusion and participation of youths in cross-border trade and trade governance is still very limited in Africa. With almost 60% of our population under the age of 25 years, putting our youth center stage in trade policy and governance can help to redistribute the benefits of cross-border trade, thereby reduce inequalities within and across regions of Africa. Just like the World Trade Organization, which recognizes the role of young people or the role young people play in trade and the importance of empowering young people to participate in global trade, the African Union indeed recognizes Africa's youths as the biggest resources we have to achieving sustainable development. So the participation of our youths, the millennials and Generation Z in cross-border trade, trade policy, and trade governance matters will indeed pave the way to achieving regional integration under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The AfCFTA aims to create a single continental market for goods and services, promote free movement of business, persons, and investments, and lead to the expansion of intra-African trade and the achievement of the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, that Africa that is integrated, prosperous, and peaceful, that Africa that is led by competent and skilled citizens able to play in global arena. The AfCFTA presents opportunities for liberalizing trade, stimulating investments and innovation, improving food security, enhancing economic growth, diversification of exports, as well as improving trade governance in Africa. More importantly, the AfCFTA has the potential to support this growing youth demography. The African Continental Free Trade Area represents an opportunity to provide more targeted and customized capacity building that explicitly targets youth, address challenges facing youth by creating an environment that empowers Africa's youth population. Achieving these goals require the engagement of young Africans. The African Union has consistently recognized the need to significantly invest in young people in Africa to ensure that they have the right motivation and capability to lead and drive these goals. The commitment of the African heads of states to youth development was further emphasized during the 2017 summit, investing in youth for accelerated inclusive growth and sustainable development. Heads of states acknowledge the importance of investing in youth as a prerequisite for building a sustainable future and ensuring concrete benefits Africa's young population and future generation. This commitment is also emphasized in the African Union Commission Chairperson's 1 million by 2021 initiative to concretely reach millions of youth, African youth from across the continent with opportunities and interventions in the key areas of engagement, employment, entrepreneurship, and education. We refer to them commonly as the 4 E's. Recognizing that much is happening to support young people, we need to ensure that we put our efforts and investments in the right place. We need to address the systemic bottlenecks that hamper growth and integration across Africa. Why this can be seen across various sectors and segments, I will make the example of youth entrepreneurship, as it is a sector many of us are interested in. While we expect young people to do well, to take advantage of the AfCFTA by launching and running businesses across Africa, the very foundation of success as a young entrepreneur is making sure the environment allows you to do business. In other words, you can focus on your business and drive for productivity rather than spend all your time and resources on auxiliaries to running your business. With this said, having said this, it is also very important for us to recognize that of all the challenges we face in achieving regional integration through AFCFTA, youth inclusivity in cross-border trade is the most pressing. It is therefore required urgent action on the part of governments to simplify and harmonize the rules through creation of an overarching continental framework to incentivize youth-led startups and micro, small, and medium enterprises to enable our young people enjoy the benefits of continental free trade. This speaks strongly to the United Nations SDG targets, but also to our own values, enshrined in the vision of the Africa we want, which is embedded in Agenda 2063, Africa's blueprint for social and economic transformation. These values seek to address the challenges facing our youth as they confront the changing global economic trends in which powerful forces are introducing new employment patterns, education and skills mismatch, environmental concerns, and the continuing imperatives of tackling regional conflicts and poverty through livelihood opportunities. Providing the conditions that encourage and enable creation of new startups and new opportunities for young people to launch their own businesses will lead to job creation. Crucially, it will lead to regional knowledge exchange in the use of new technologies and innovation to drive and facilitate trade in the digital economy, thereby providing new axes of opportunities in e-commerce, e-agriculture, e-health, finance, and manufacturing of the fourth industrial revolution. Another area young people have a role is in the area of expanding and strengthening our supply and value chains. Youth networks and representatives should form a key part in the discussion and action to ensure that our regional supply and value chains are inclusive, particularly providing a cross-border corridor under the African Continental Free Trade Area for youth-owned businesses to become parts of the regional supply chain, particularly in the export sector. An inclusive supply chain is a catalyst for regional integration. Access to regional supply chains provides source of new opportunities for young entrepreneurs, which can lead to other economic spillovers in form of job creation for other young people. For young entrepreneurs to thrive, it is important that they also have a role in deciding the governance mechanism to reducing and removal of non-tariff barriers to trade. It means giving them a continental platform to hold national and regional governments to account in the implementation of policies related to regulatory frameworks and that undermine and hinder access to markets for youth-led businesses. The African Union, through the Office of the Youth Envoy, can coordinate efforts for inclusive and meaningful youth engagement and participation in regional integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area, in close supervision by the Department of Trade and Industry, as well as Human Resource, Science, and Technology. I believe that effective change is only possible when citizens demand for it and play their part. That is why I think the conversations today are very essential, Cindy. It is an opportunity for young people to speak to the challenges that are real to them in their own provinces and across Africa. But we must not end in speaking. We should walk the talk. We should go beyond rhetoric. We hope that we will define ideas to address these challenges, establish relationships to manage emerging solutions, and build efficient network for response. This will ensure that our ideas scale and we as the African Union can better support you. Finally, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the African Union Commission Department of Trade and Industry and the African Union Office of the Youth Envoys teams for organizing this important event. Together, we are stronger, and it's important we dissect whatever the problem is and prefer African solutions to African challenges. Thank you very much, Cindy.
Thank you, Excellency. And thank you for those words and for echoing, as always, that young people definitely have a very vital role to play in the African continent for the Africa that we want, and specifically in the area of trade. And thank you for once again reminding everyone participating here that the 4 E's are a very much important tool and agenda that everyone should be concerned about and looking into. And so for now, without any further ado, I'd like to check in if, yes, the envoy is ready for us for the much anticipated IGD panel. It is now my pleasure to pass on over to her for the IGD panel that she'll be taking over. Ms. Ayachebi, please.
Thank you very much, Cindy. And I'm wondering if all my esteemed panelists can also turn on their videos so we can see everyone. And if there is anyone struggling with getting connected, that we can sort that out. Yes, Asya, hi. And it's great to see Commissioner again, inspiring us with her welcoming opening. Thank you, Commissioner, for always showing up, for always being here, and for always championing the youth agenda, not only with words, but with actions. So thank you for being with us and taking the time to come to this dialogue. Thank you, Commissioner. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the intergenerational dialogue on the role of young people in accelerating Africa's integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area, known as AFCFTA. First of all, happy Africa Integration Day. I'm proud to be African because there is no better time for my generation than now to contribute to the aspiration of Agenda 2063 and really see it becoming a reality through AFCFTA. This is not an aspiration anymore. It's now a reality because we decided as a continent to be one voice, one market, one passport, and to be one of the largest trade blocs in the world. I think this is awesome, and this is cool, and this is transformative and Pan-African. So I'm so excited to welcome my panel, and maybe you can welcome them with your virtual clubs. My esteemed panel, I have to say I've been reading the bios of you, and I'm just so humbled and honored to moderate this panel and listen to your wisdom. And while we continue the introduction, can I please have everyone's video turned on so we can see everyone on the screen? Ms. Rosaline, Gatien, Paula. Yes, please, everyone, let's turn your cameras on, and maybe the admin can also help turning all cameras on of the panel. Please also share your question by clicking on the Q&A on your screen, and you can ask in English or French. Vous pouvez aussi poser vos questions en français. We will also have some polls running, and there is one already running right now asking you to rate your knowledge of AFCFTA. And it seems the majority so far is intermediary knowledge and basic. So I hope by the end of this dialogue, your knowledge will be much more. Also, don't forget to tweet us at Youth4AFCFTA, hashtag Youth4AFCFTA, and share your key takeaways from the panelists and the conversations as we go ahead. I want to see if Ms. Rosaline is with us because I want to start with her to give us some background and to kick us off in the conversation. So Ms. Rosaline, if you could please turn on your camera. Thank you. And Ms. Rosaline Ngeno is the Senior Investment Expert at AFCFTA Support Unit of the African Union Commission. And I would really like you to give us some basic understanding for a young person who is trying to figure out what is AFCFTA, what are the objectives, and how it will be phased out. And if possible, to give us some examples of how it will be actually implemented practically. Ms. Rosaline.
Thank you very much, Ayachebi. And thank you very much, Your Excellency, Commissioner Sarah. Distinguished participants, welcome. Pursuant to Agenda 2063, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement encompasses rules and commitments on market access and provisions to reduce barriers to trade and investment. There are 5 dimensions of integration envisaged by this agreement: the free movement of people, trade integration, including tariffs and shares of intra-regional trade, productive integration including regional value chains, macroeconomic integration, this includes investment treaties and currency convertibility, among others, and of course, infrastructural integration. This has flight and road infrastructure. Phase 1 of the AFCFTA negotiations has covered areas of trade in goods and trade in services. Phase 2 will cover areas of investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policy. Phase 3 will cover e-commerce. The practical benefits of the AFCFTA include the following: progressive elimination of tariffs on intra-Africa trade, which will make it easier for Africa businesses to trade within the continent and tap from the huge potential of a larger African market of about 1.2 billion people who have a GDP of $2.5 trillion. It will help diversify Africa's trade and encourage a move away from reliance on extractive commodities, resulting in a more balanced and sustainable export base for countries on the continent. It will facilitate SMEs, which comprise of 80% of our businesses, to tap into regional export destinations and use the regional markets as stepping stones for expanding into overseas markets. For the African growing young population, AFCFTA is projected to produce more employment and create opportunities through the promotion of more labor-intensive trade, which will be generated from manufacturing and agricultural value addition. It will definitely create supply chains across the continent, thus making it easier for SMEs to connect to larger regional companies. With the reduced tariffs, AFCFTA will make it more affordable for informal traders to operate through formal channels, which offer more protection from harassment, robbery, and for confiscation of goods as we see today. And it is also projected to provide simplified clearing procedures. It will work on the premise of fair trade. This is in relation to free trade, where, for instance, the less industrialized countries can benefit from linking into regional value chains. Overall, it is expected that the AFCFTA will help accelerate Africa's own development vision. And now we have a population of Africa projected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050, where 26% of this population projected to be the world working age population. And thus we will have an impetus for increasing our productivity as Africa and also increasing the opportunities available to us. Thank you very much, Aya.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to add that from that percentage, by 2050, more than half of Africa will be under the age of 25. And actually, half of the world will be African by then. So we have a huge demographic dividend. And I wanted just to follow up with you, Ms. Rosaline, with another question on digitalization. How can AFCFTA achieve these objectives when 70% of Africa is still offline?
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we know that right now digital technologies have become an indispensable pillar of contemporary global poverty alleviation strategies and have spread across the African continent at a very high rate. They are now making their way into every facet of our life, in our African societies. Utilizing e-commerce platforms, for example, the one we are using right now, have become the new normal. Many countries right now utilize also mobile money platforms. But there is, however, a very big digital divide in Africa, as you have mentioned. The challenge in the digital readiness will hamper the ability of African countries in particular to take advantage of the digital technologies. And it brings a new element that needs to be considered in the achievement of the AFCFTA objectives. Governments need to be encouraged to invest in infrastructure that will close this digital divide. The policy areas that will need to be addressed include ICT infrastructure, payment solutions, skills, and legal framework. For example, quality and affordability of broadband connectivity must be greatly enhanced, as well as strengthening the protection of users and consumers to boost trust in online commerce. The Assembly of the African Union Heads of State and Government, which met in February this year, gave the African Union the mandate to embark on negotiating a protocol on electronic commerce immediately after the conclusion of negotiations on the 3 protocols on intellectual property rights, investment, and competition policy. The decision by the African leaders to have the African countries negotiate a protocol on e-commerce under phase 3 will bring about favorable environments which digital technologies depend on to realize their transformative potentiality. We are looking forward to these negotiations, which will then help us to take advantage of the AFCFTA. To quote a writer, Calestas Juma, the ability to harness the power of technology and engineering to solve social problems must be accompanied by complementary adaptations in social institutions. These advances will in turn demand the emergence of more scientifically and technologically enlightened societies guided by democratic principles in the social, political, and cultural arenas. We are in a digital age. We need to utilize the opportunities available to us in this digital age. And therefore, we have opportunities, even the youth right now have opportunities to actually utilize this, even as we make way to bridge the digital divide.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rosaline. And I want to remind everyone that you are in charge of supporting the negotiation and development of the investment protocol to AFCFTA phase 2 process. So we know in your previous work in Kenya that you will get us there and provide the necessary strategic guidance to our member states. So thank you so much for your work. I will now move on to Gatia, who is Junior Project Manager at AFCFTA, and he will speak in French. So please click on the interpretation and choose English if you wish so. Alors, mon frère Gatien, je voulais vous poser une question pour simplifier surtout l'information.
I would like to ask a question. Are you getting the English interpretation?
Yes, we are, but the English interpretation is interfering with the main webinar.
Yeah, the IMS has to register the English interpreter.
Admin, if you could please mute so we can proceed. Okay. Donc, Gatien, je voulais vous poser la question, surtout pour simplifier l'information pour un jeune Africain qui se demande quelle est la différence entre la signature de l'accord par le pays et la ratification, et peut-être combien de pays ont déjà ratifié l'accord.
Oui, justement, c'est une très bonne question. Déjà, je commence par vous remercier, Aya Chebi, pour l'occasion que nous avions aujourd'hui de pouvoir échanger dans le cadre d'un dialogue intergénérationnel. Alors, pour venir à bout de cette préoccupation qui me semble tout à fait légitime, il faut dire que la signature de l'accord, c'est une façon d'authentifier l'accord, donc de reconnaître son bien fondé et d'exprimer la volonté de l'État signataire de poursuivre la procédure dont le but vraisemblablement est la conclusion de l'accord par l'État membre en question. Elle ne donne donc pas une garantie de ratification directement après qu'elle a été signée. Donc, la différence se situe à quel niveau? La ratification, c'est l'acte international par lequel un État membre indique son consentement à être lié à un accord. C'est seulement de cette manière que l'État membre qui a authentifié l'accord au préalable peut décider d'exprimer son consentement à être lié à cet accord par la suite. Pour venir à bout de votre seconde préoccupation, il faut dire que dans les faits aujourd'hui, il y a 30 pays qui ont ratifié l'accord, mais seulement 28 l'ont déposé auprès de l'Union africaine, car le Cameroun et le Cap-Vert l'ont ratifié dans leurs différents pays, mais ne l'ont pas encore jusqu'ici déposé auprès de l'Union africaine, si tant est de croire que la ratification, l'administration est écrite donc pour que ça soit authentifié, qu'il soit pris en compte dans l'effectif même des pays qui ont ratifié. Il va falloir bien évidemment qu'ils viennent déposer le document qui l'atteste au niveau de l'Union africaine.
Alors, on appelle à tous nos gouvernements de ratifier et déposer aussi pour l'accord. Ma deuxième question pour vous, c'est comment vous pensez que la zone de libre-échange va assurer la sécurité, surtout de l'emploi pour la jeunesse?
Déjà, il faut constater que sur le continent africain, on compte entre 10 et 12 millions de jeunes qui arrivent chaque année sur le marché de l'emploi. Et il paraît évident qu'avoir un marché plus grand, plus vaste sur le continent, tel que la ZLECAf, c'est non seulement donner la possibilité aux consommateurs africains de bénéficier de la variété, de la diversité de la production africaine, mais aussi et surtout, c'est donner la possibilité aux producteurs et aux investisseurs l'opportunité de bénéficier des larges débouchés possibles et donc de faire des investissements plus longs et plus lourds, ce qui à terme va générer des emplois, mais surtout des emplois stables et donc des emplois sécurisés que nous avons besoin.
Super. Before I move on to my next panelist, I just want to recognize Commissioner of Trade and Industry who just joined us. And even though he'll be just intervening at the end for the closing, he's here. I know that he's here to listen to young people and to champion what young people are talking about and to really understand the realities. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us. Je vais passer à Paula, jeune entrepreneur spécialisée dans tout ce qui est médias et numérique, mais aussi avec un accent très intéressant sur la culture. Alors, Paula, quels sont les défis auxquels vous êtes confrontée en tant que jeune entrepreneur engagé sur le continent, mais aussi, à votre avis, quelles sont les opportunités vraiment de la zone de libre-échange pour les jeunes comme vous, et surtout pour l'industrie de fashion et l'industrie culturelle surtout, parce que tu as vraiment un accent très intéressant sur ça.
D'accord, merci beaucoup Aya, bonjour à tout le monde. Alors, je vais commencer par la fin. Quels sont les avantages? Dans le domaine culturel, on a la chance justement de travailler à la promotion, j'allais dire, des produits créatifs pour africains. Et aujourd'hui, on est quand même sur grâce notamment aux réseaux sociaux, on commence à avoir un marché intérieur qui est très intéressant. Il y a beaucoup de collaborations d'un pays à l'autre en Afrique, que ce soit dans la musique, dans la mode, dans la beauté, etc. On a de plus en plus de collaborations panafricaines. Malheureusement, quand il s'agit maintenant de consommer ou du moins de vendre ces produits, on a énormément de problèmes. Le premier, de manière très concrète pour nous les entrepreneurs, ça va être au niveau des taxes. Typiquement, par exemple, pour donner un exemple très concret, on a une créatrice au Nigeria dont j'ai fait la promotion et j'ai souhaité par exemple acquérir certaines de ces pièces, mais quand on a regardé les montants d'envoi depuis Lagos pour Abidjan, parce que je suis à Abidjan, c'était le double du montant des produits. Donc clairement, ce n'est pas du tout intéressant et du coup, ça nous bloque. Même nous qui avons, on va dire, une couverture panafricaine, on ne peut pas promouvoir exactement tout, comment dire, à hauteur de toute la zone parce qu'on est toujours freiné vraiment par ce problème de taxes. Il y a aussi un problème évidemment sur des infrastructures de transport. J'ai envie de dire qu'en amont, nous, on est en train de créer un marché, on est en train de créer de la demande, mais on est vraiment freiné en aval par quand il faut vraiment desservir cette demande. Donc ça, ce serait vraiment un des challenges au quotidien là-dessus. Donc on est du coup très, très, très content et je pense très impatient de voir la mise en place de cette zone de libre-échange. C'est vrai que j'ai parlé de la culture, mais je pense que les jeunes, de manière globale, ont aussi envie d'explorer en termes de tourisme, pouvoir aller d'un pays à l'autre. Alors, c'est sûr que sur la zone CEDEAO, par exemple, c'est faisable. Sur la CEMAC, c'est faisable plus ou moins. Mais voilà, si on arrive à avoir une zone où finalement, il y a plusieurs régions africaines, on va dire, qui travaillent sur le même espace et dans le même ensemble, ça va aussi beaucoup booster les industries touristiques. Donc, on a vraiment, vraiment besoin que ce soit mis en place, j'espère très rapidement, parce qu'il y a en tout cas pas mal de scepticisme de la part des jeunes sur l'implémentation de cet espace de libre-échange. Donc, on est très impatient à ce niveau.
Absolument. Et j'ai une autre question pour vous par rapport à la mise en place d'une monnaie commune. Pensez-vous que l'adoption d'une monnaie unique fera progresser l'intégration continentale en Afrique?
Oui, bien sûr. Je pense que dans un premier temps, ça va stabiliser déjà d'un point de vue économique, je pense, les marchés respectifs. Ça permet aussi, et je reprends encore l'exemple entrepreneurial, ça permet aussi de pouvoir se projeter en termes de budget, de vente, si on veut avoir un marché qui est au-delà de son marché intérieur, marché national. Donc, la monnaie unique, pour moi, présente principalement des avantages. Après, je sais que les discussions sont encore en cours sur certains points à ce niveau, mais effectivement, oui, je pense que ça pourrait être un facteur qui va aider vraiment les marchés à s'ouvrir les uns sur les autres.
Merci beaucoup, Paula. I'm seeing that the poll is everyone is participating, which is great, but I'm seeing still the highest is limited knowledge or intermediary knowledge of AFCFTA. So please continue participating, and another poll will show up soon. I will move to my sister, Aramide, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So the founder of Naija Startup, among many other amazing things. Aramide, you are on a mission to influence private sector policies in Africa and to build an African startup ecosystem. I like that definition. So tell us a bit about your business and especially how you're using digital technology, or how can we all use digital technology to sensitize African youth on CFTA and Africa's integration.
Thank you, Aya. I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable commissioners, my distinguished panelists, and Aya, of course. Thank you for the honor. Naija Startups is an entrepreneur support organization, an ESO, and a virtual hub for SMEs. And to date, we've interacted with about 90,000 or more entrepreneurs through digital platforms. Our mission is to empower entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses on the African continent. And to date, we've engaged with over 90,000, like I've said, both in Africa, not just Nigeria, where I'm from, and also the diaspora. And we have 3 strategic pillars that we use to do this. The first is structure, because we find that a lot of businesses need structure. The second is funding, access to funding. And the third is capability building and training of the actual entrepreneurs. In terms of using digital technology, there are so many ways. In fact, we have grown leveraging digital platforms and technology. And in my mind, some of the things that I see people have challenges with is digital skills training. But more than that is, having this whole identity about Africa. If we want to empower entrepreneurs or sensitize Africans to know more about the AFCFTA, I think we need to start from even the identity of, Africa itself. We know that, for example, African entertainment and music is seen as superior in many parts of the world. If we can do that with other products and services and businesses, would be amazing. And it all starts with digital, because that's the quickest way to do so. So running campaigns across digital platforms, using social media to empower and engage with entrepreneurs, but also driving more interactions and building relationships between different countries, so cross-continental relationships. And then I think the final thing is, opening up borders in terms of payments. So things like digital wallets would be good from an AFCFTA standpoint, and those kinds of things will attract more youth to be interested in this AFCFTA agenda and initiative that is going to help their businesses. And so those are my views there.
Thank you so much. And I just want to follow up with another question, because I'm really curious to hear from you and maybe to bring us the gender perspective to the conversation on some of the challenges that young entrepreneurs face in Africa. And if you think, and how, if you think, yes, CFTA will work to support especially young women-led business.
That's a great question, Aya. Thank you for that. Like within our network, for example, we have a 65% to 35% split between women and men, so more women entrepreneurs, as probably can be seen across other countries as well. Now, some of the challenges that women entrepreneurs face are, the main one is the elephant in the room, which is access to funding, whether it's loans or even equity, venture capital, etc. I think there was some analysis online that said only 7% of venture capitalists are women of color. So if you think about that and then translate that to even accessing funds, it's even worse. But another challenge I'd say is even just competition with male counterparts. So when it comes to getting business, it's not very easy. Some people realize, they've interacted with the business, and then when they find out it's a woman, you get the pushback from clients. It still happens. I've heard some entrepreneurs talk about that. And then I think even tech and digital skills training, because if we have more women in technology, more women in digital skills, then, things like accessing opportunities online, cross-border business using technology would be easier. So those are some of the things that I think about. And then I think maybe going into other initiatives or other ways to get more women involved or sensitized, and also using the benefits of the AFCFTA to do business would be things like training camps, leveraging hubs, competitions that, you know, drive more participation among female entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. And yes, to take women seriously in business, because statistics show that when you give women resources, they can do magic with it. Thank you very much. And I want to move to ask Tobo, who is the founder and CEO of Lion Tutoring, a 100% locally owned company. That's awesome. Tobo, COVID-19 has brought e-commerce to the forefront of business. How are you taking advantage of the digital economy in your business? And while you tell us about that, maybe you can bring the Southern Africa perspective as well and experience as you're based in Botswana.
All right, thank you very much, Aya. Really appreciate it. And greetings to everyone, your excellencies, your distinguished panelists, and everyone else watching. My name is Tobo, like you've mentioned. I'm based in Botswana, in the southern part of our beloved Africa. And yeah, you know, COVID-19 has really pushed us, especially from a local perspective, to start to embrace you know, e-commerce, to start embracing digitalization, you know, taking everything that we're doing into a digital playground. So with basically e-commerce, we run a tutoring company, like you've already mentioned, Aya. Our tutoring company is Lion Tutoring. We offer private tutorials to students. Our tutors, they go to students' homes, or the students come to our centers. We also have online learning. So we've seen with the COVID-19, most of the clients had to now have their tutoring and their learning from home. So unfortunately now it has really pushed everyone to sort of move into the digital space. So we've always had the whole online tutoring, but now it's like it's booming, because now we're even having students from other countries. You know, we had students from Canada, we've had students from the UKs, we have students even from the African continent. We're servicing students also Addis Ababa, you know, all different countries. So I think it's really opened up opportunities for us to sort of embrace the digitization. So right now, everything is going digital. We're able to even receive payments from other countries through our e-commerce site. So clients now, they don't have to come to our center and pay cash or ask for our banking details. They simply just log on to our e-commerce, they select a package, then they just pay there, which is very easy, because I mean, if other companies like your Amazon, your Alibaba are able to do that, able to transact online using e-commerce, surely African businesses can also do that.
Mm-hmm. And I want you maybe to share with us some of the challenges that you're facing as you know, a digital-driven business.
Yeah, obviously the challenges are there, because as somebody once mentioned also in our conversation, that, you know, Africans, you know, we have a few challenges of, you know, the population that is having smartphones, the population that is connected, you know, to your internet, or having resources of internet, and also devices that can access internet. So those are some of the challenges. And countries, some of our countries, you know, you'll find I think even just the entire African continent, we have a challenge of having high data costs, you know, very slow internet. So those are some of the challenges that we experience. Only the elite, or those that are having resources, are able to access, you know, proper internet, are able to use the devices. So those are some of the challenges. But I've seen even in my government, the government of Botswana, you know, they've really worked with our internet service providers, our ISPs, and most of them, we've seen them throughout the COVID-19 have really lowered down the data costs. They've made it more affordable for everyone, you know, which is a good thing, because most of people were working from home. So you had to have meetings like what we are having right now. And it's a very good opportunity. I mean, we wouldn't have met with people from all these amazing countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, etc., etc., if it wasn't for this opportunity of having Zoom or having other Skype, WhatsApp calling, we have all those opportunities now. So I think with every challenge that there is, Aya, there's also an opportunity, because even with our business, our tutoring business, we wouldn't have been able to access the whole of the, our African population, 1.2 billion. The only, our population here in Botswana is just almost 2 million. So imagine now we're accessing 1.2 billion through technology. So I always say that, wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And not only the 1.2 billion population of Africa, there's also 7.59 billion of the global population. And we
absolutely,
as Africans
Tubo.
have...
And I like what you said, but with every challenge there is an opportunity. And I want to move on to Mokhtar. I want to bring Mokhtar, who is one of the 5 African ambassadors for peace, and I want you to bring to us also the perspective of peace and security, and where is the opportunity there for peace building. So do you think, as a young peace builder, that AFCFTA can solve some of the challenges that young people face, especially in the Sahel region?
Thanks, Aya. And I think that so has probably a lot of your, most of the challenges here, the root causes of youth involvement in conflict, serious organized crime, among other, among other issues, include long-standing socioeconomic grievances and systemic marginalization, be it lack of equal access to opportunities, lack of social mobility, or marginalization from dividend, or simply a lost sense of purpose in terms of economic productivity or utility or existential threat to life or means of survival. When this kind of issues or systemic grievances are protected, some my fellow youth in the Sahel region in particular, and others, interpret inequality, unemployment in its Africanized sense, or underemployment as form of organized, subversive, and violence against the moral and productive capabilities. In this sense, Aya, someone is criminal is someone freedom fighter, and we have to understand here as well that every youth criminal was not born a criminal, but rather became one in a process of his or her engagement with the social, political, and economic environment in which she and he inhabit. First, a sustainable approach to preemptive criminality in all these forms, whether it's terrorism or violent extremism and shape, is customized, multi-dimensional, bipartisan, and responsive to changing the dynamic. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers many prospects in respect, the dominant narrative being through professional mobility and skill portability. Consequently, the EU conflict prevention tools, such as the Continental Structural Conflict Prevention Framework, the Borders Program, are vital in transforming the different natures of this localized conflict when deployed alongside the AFCTFTA from the Sahel to Southern Africa.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to maybe follow up so you can give us also your perspective of how can AFCFTA contribute to the peace and security, because we say that peace and security is a prerequisite to development and to opportunities and to youth employment and to all of the things we need. But isn't it also vice versa? How is this relationship going to go between offering peace and security in the continent and AFCFTA?
Thanks. I think we have recognized that interdependency, as you just mentioned, between the AFCFTA and peace and security over the continent. Challenges with inharmonious development within countries persist to date and continue to foment and fuel major legitimate demands and expectations from our weakened public institutions. So the COVID, in terms of the COVID being, because AFCFTA will be a post-COVID project for many of our African countries. And COVID being both demand and a supply shock will definitely cause waves of socioeconomic crisis. And the continental free trade area provide opportunity in terms of starting with cushioning those waves of socioeconomic crisis, alleviating them, and in the process abating rather than exacerbating the existing socio-political fault lines. So we understand already from the that the dominant effect of such consequences is quite substantial, and have never been this present. And if you look at, for instance, the contagion or spillover effect of the violence in Libya on localized conflict in the Sahel, the Lake Chad Basin region, and on Horn of Africa, we understand we are more than ever integrated. So I'd like to kind of also take this opportunity to highlight here that the truth narrative has understandably taken the center stage in discussion on the contribution of AFCFTA to Africa's integration. But however, we also need to make sure that its contribution to the peace, security, and stability nexus narrative is given the intention and spotlight needed. Ultimately, the risk premium to investment and its related consequences increase drastically when peace, security, and stability are lacking. In a nutshell, when guns are not silenced. And I believe the CITREPs and the Daily Situation Report draw that reality quite starkly from Mali to Libya.
Thank you, Mokhtar. And I see a lot of your comrades from IAP here, watching and participating and really feeling proud of you. And also kudos to all the work of the Peace and Security Department through IAP and other Youth for Peace and other programs on youth. So last but not least, I want to go to Asia, who is the project officer at the Industrialization Division of AUDA NEPAD. Asia, maybe we can start with learning more about your work on supporting young entrepreneurs, and perhaps you can link that to how do you think young people can contribute and also benefit from industrialization?
Thank you, Aya. Thank you for having me today at this panel. Well, the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, is fully committed to ensure that Africa's youth are given the education, the employment, and economic opportunities they deserve. The organization has ongoing initiatives that aim to provide support to young entrepreneurs to strengthen their business availability across the value chain. For instance, as part of its integrated approach, the AUD NEPAD has launched the 1000 SMEs project that harnesses Africa's youthful demographic dividends in line with the 1 million by 2021 initiative. The project really aims to first deliberately prioritizes SMEs that are owned by young entrepreneurs and provide them support to access to finance, access to technology, access to information and trainings, really linking knowledge to skills development and enable them a conducive environment to develop, sustain, and grow their enterprises. At the organizational level, 2 points. In the development and implementation of our programs, when reporting, we disaggregate information on youth and women to make sure that we are articulating their needs and aspirations, and of course providing them with concrete evidence-based support. Within the industrialization division, we fully understand that youth entrepreneurship is the backbone of Africa's industrialization. Hence, we conceptualize our programs around integrating their enterprises across the industrial activity in Africa. And the second point is that the AUD NEPAD has implemented a policy to ensure that the organization is giving internship opportunities and professional positions to young people across the continent, while ensuring regional and gender balance. And as a concrete example, it's just myself, female 25 years old project officer. So in this regards, youth We understand that youth is the biggest asset, and we are benefiting from youth, and youth should be benefiting from our work and all the continental development frameworks. And the way that youth has this tremendous power to move Africa's industrialization forward is just the fact that through their enterprises, they boost job creation across the continent, and hence foster the implementation of the AFCFTA. Just to conclude, I would like to give an industrial example. The locomotive, a car. So the car on Africa's trajectory towards economic growth and development, sustainable development, is youth. If we don't build the pieces, we don't assemble them correctly, and we don't fuel the car along the way, we cannot reach Africa cannot reach its destination. This is as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you for that metaphor. And just to follow up with another question on diaspora, which is our sixth region and has tremendously contributed to Africa's development. What do you think the role of diaspora that can play in the integration agenda? How can they get involved?
Thank you. Well, the diaspora has a critical role in really driving Africa's development forward. They play a role called brain gain. They bring knowledge. They bring expertise, they bring technology back to the homeland. And they are involved. For instance, some components of the Agenda 2063 are emanating from the African diaspora through the consultation processes. So it really goes without saying that their involvement is critical for our continent, and the ways we can engage the diaspora can be through remote mobilization that is already taking place, or bringing the diaspora back to Africa. And in this regard, AUD and NEPAD has thought around an initiative that is not yet operationalized to bring the diaspora on a sabbatical journey so that they can provide expertise, knowledge, and skills, and contribute to skills development and capacity building of our people on the ground. And of course, the third and important component is their investments, so that we can finance the development process of our continent. And having said that, I would like to remind that the diaspora is the brain gain that originates from a brain drain phenomenon, which is the immigration of young, educated Africans abroad looking for opportunities and a better life. It is a circle. Africa loses skilled people and then gains their contribution. Hence, the industrialization of Africa, the implementation of our development frameworks, and really ownership of our development process will create the opportunities to keep the brain in Africa. Thank you.
Absolutely. We hope that the industrialization and integration agenda will keep our young people here, because we have everything. We have the resources. Absolutely. Africa is rich in resources and in human resources and in genius. So we don't have any reason why we should go out of Africa if we have everything here. So hopefully we can achieve that. And I just wanted also to remind everyone that there is a session tomorrow on the role of African diaspora in harnessing AFCFTA. It will be at 10 a.m. New York Times. And it's a great panel. It will have Dr. Jibril Diallo, Commissioner Felix Obi, Mayor Frank Jackson, among many others. So don't miss it if you're interested to dive more into the diaspora question. And I also want to draw your attention, there is a poll going on right now and is asking you, what do you think is the best route towards Africa's continental integration? Is it common currency, common language, African passports, African common market e-commerce, or intra-Africa trade, non-tariffs barriers. So please participate. We have only 50% of you voted so far, so go on and participate in that. This has been really inspiring. We heard experiences from various regions in Africa. I want to take 2 questions from the floor, and I'm gonna just drop it here in the panel for anyone who's interested to answer. And there is a question from Mlandvo Mamba. He says, I am 34 years old, male in the creative economy of Eswatini, working mostly as a freelancer. My sector is service-based, so I don't manufacture products, and as such, the value addition concept is a bit tricky for me in relation to AFCFTA and what I perceive to be a push mostly for industrialization. Where do I fit as a service professional to benefit from AFCFTA? Anyone would like to jump on that question? I don't know if Ms. Rosaline is still with us.
Oui, Aya.
Oui, Gatien, vas-y.
Oui, par rapport à cette préoccupation, il faut dire que l'Union africaine a déjà pris des mesures pour pallier, bien sûr, à ces problématiques. Pas plus tard que hier, si vous étiez aussi avec nous dans la session réservée aux adultes, le commissaire de Trade et Industrie a annoncé les engagements, les défis que le département a déjà pris pour bien évidemment venir à bout de cette problématique, avec bien sûr 22 emplois, 22 millions autant pour moi d'emplois en perspective dans le cadre de la ZLECAF pour 600 PME à terme. Ce sont en fait des défis qui vont venir en fait changer le concept que l'on avait avant de l'Afrique de production dans un sens plus ou moins axé sur la production industrialisée, parce qu'il faut dire que ça n'avait pas un impact assez porteur sur non seulement l'économie africaine, mais aussi sur, la jeunesse qui, dans le cas échéant, nous concerne. Et ça faisait en sorte qu'on avait une production qui était basée sur les produits essentiellement en matière première et qui n'avait pas en fait qui ne subissait pas ce que je peux appeler une stimulation, une stimulation au niveau du continent, donc une croissance endogène. Je voudrais préciser que dans le même élan, nous avons inauguré hier la plateforme numérique africaine désormais en activité, que nous avons dénommée Sokuku, qui veut dire en Swahili marché central. Alors, Sokuku, c'est une plateforme numérique qui va permettre aux jeunes Africains en particulier, si tant est de croire que cette tranche de la jeunesse est la plus friande des nouvelles technologies, de pouvoir communiquer sur le plan d'intégration économique au-delà des limites que l'on connaît à travers nos frontières. Et c'est une opportunité énorme dans ce sens qu'elle va nous permettre de lever un certain nombre de barrières non tarifaires, entre autres. On peut citer plusieurs, mais celle-là, pour moi, me semble la plus indiquée concernant la jeunesse. Donc, il y a tellement de débouchés qu'aujourd'hui, un jeune qui a une formation quelconque et qui veut embrasser un domaine d'activité dans un secteur bien défini peut en fait saisir dans le cadre, bien sûr, du marché commun et réussir à tirer son épingle du jeu.
Merci beaucoup, Gatien. Il y a une autre question qui vient de Stevie Aseko du Gabon. Et il dit, pensez-vous que l'intégration d'une zone de libre-échange corresponde aux réalités socio-économiques de l'Afrique avec son cadre non structuré, pour ne pas dire informel? Peut-on parler de libre-échange où les secteurs qui gèrent ces libres-échanges, comme la douane, sont réservés aux proches des détenteurs du pouvoir? Donc, il parle vraiment de la corruption. Comment résoudre ça? His question is really related to how can we achieve AFCFTA when we have informal sector, but also when we have corruption during the exchange. Anyone would like to address that question? Asia? You're muted. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Come again. Come again. I didn't quite get. Sorry. I didn't quite get the question.
Sorry, who is speaking?
Sorry, this is Roslyn. I didn't get the question very clearly, and
okay.
Yes, and I could also answer together with the service question. Thank you.
Oh, great. You are still here because I didn't see your video. So the question is from a young person from Gabon who is saying, how can we integrate when Africa is facing socioeconomic challenges and when we have a non-formal structure? So I think he's talking more about the non-formal economy, but also he's saying, how can we have an exchange or trade when we have a lot of corruption on the continent, and that money can go, in his own words, to power, to people in power.
Yes, that is a serious problem that is facing the African continent and also the world at large in terms of flight of resources to people through corrupt initiatives. And if you recall, when we were talking about what AFCFTA aims to achieve, it aims to put structures in place that will actually support. Let me actually just check it out clearly, and so that I can read out the benefit that AFCFTA will present and which will assist to remove this. When the tariffs are reduced, and when the simplification of procedures are actually very clear. Right now, the procedures are not clear, particularly for the informal sector, and we have 80% of our informal sector on cross-border. When it is not clear, then it gives loopholes for corruption. But it is projected that the simplified clearing procedure alongside reduced import duties will actually help to eliminate this, because the trader is therefore trading through a formal channel. It is no longer informal, where they have to hide, where they have to be harassed, where their goods have to be confiscated, and then they have to pay bribes. So therefore, with the simplified procedures that are under the AFCFTA, then we are hoping that this will clearly be reduced. That is on that question. On the question that was earlier asked, if you allow me, the issue of servicification is a very key element in industrialization. Services play a very important role in global value chains, and particularly the manufacturing process. And that has an increasing share of the value addition. It takes place during the early and later stages of the production cycle. It is not being used very clearly by many people to understand this. So if you see the curve that OECD has developed, there's a smiling curve developed from OECD, which shows that the highest amount of value addition takes place at the two extremes of the value chain, where services predominate. That is in the initial R&D and design phase, as well as in the post-production phase, that is the logistics and the marketing. So I hope he would understand that his role is extremely critical.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Rosalind, to come in and clarify and answer those important questions. I think this one is for you, Asia, because Ifani is asking AUDA in EPAD, how can youth with active business participate or register in the initiative established for SMEs? And what are the modalities for young entrepreneurs to get engaged in the AFCFTA beyond the talks, since African leadership is always centered at the top? So I want to do justice to the questions and just say them as they are.
Thank you, Aya, and thank you for that question. It is indeed an important question, because at the end of the day, we are aiming to provide concrete solutions and concrete actions to the needs of African youth. In terms of the 1,000 SMEs initiative, there is on our AUDA website, you will be able to see all the modalities in terms of participation, in terms of contacting the team that is in charge of leading that project. And in addition, within the scope of the project, they have held training sessions, which means that they went there and to meet young people, organize talks, conferences, and training so that they enhance their capacities. They inform them about the opportunities that they have in order to develop their enterprises. So all the information in terms of how to reach a UDA and NEPAD and get that support, you will be able to find that directly at the website, and the team working on that will surely take into consideration every single interest in terms of requesting the need for.
Thank you very much. So we have only 10 minutes to wrap up, but I want to take one last question. There are many interesting questions, but there is one from George. Integration and digitalization means delivery of many important projects. How are we to ensure adequate and uniform standard of project management across the continent? I think the question addressed digitalization, and maybe Aramide, if you want to jump in, because I know this is your area, and if anyone else would like to jump in with a final thought before we wrap up.
Thank you, Aya, for that question. Thank you for that question. You know, from a project management standpoint, consistency across a very diverse continent with diverse cultures, diverse styles, economy-wise, is always a challenge, but it's not impossible. I think the key thing is alignment, first of all, from the very beginning, and then also, monitoring and evaluation. So constantly doing that. I understand there's a secretariat that has just been set up in West Africa, but I think from there can then be where the project monitoring across country. I mean, first of all, you have to train, so there's a whole training, and then training trainers, trickling down like that, but also communication, consistency in that, and then also just monitoring and checking in. So from a project standpoint, that's probably the best way to track and ensure consistency, but also plan for risks so that then you can mitigate them when they do come along, because the key thing is adoption at the end of the day. So you want to make sure that this is adopted as opposed to just rolling out all of this, and then in the end, it's not being, embraced in country. So I hope that's been able to help.
Thank you for that. And before we wrap up, I think just on the question, there are so many interesting ones, and I'm just going to mention a few, maybe for His Excellency the Commissioner to address it in his closing. Aquas from Ghana says to His Excellency the Commissioner, are there any youth in business, trade, partnership opportunities as part of AFCFTA for youth startups to participate in cross-border trade? And there's many questions around skills, transferability to deliver value, leveraging on technology, access to capital for young entrepreneurs, and tax exemption for startups for youth. So we have 65 questions. So, I mean, we addressed some of them, but I'm sure you have many more, and probably, Commissioner, I don't know, it would be useful, and we would be very much willing to collaborate with you on doing a frequently asked questions for young people to really understand, AFCFTA and how they can contribute, and some of the repeated questions that they're wondering around, and they can find information that we can provide. So before we wrap up, I want to ask each of you in 20 seconds, literally 20 seconds, and in one sentence, how do you imagine an integrated Africa to look like? And maybe I'll start with Tobo.
Right, thank you very much, Aya. Yeah, in 20 seconds, I really imagine an integrated Africa, where I can sell my goods, I can sell my services in any part of Africa without having to go over all of those swift costs, the inter-border tariffs and all of that. Because we are one continent, as diverse as we are, there's more than thousands of different languages that we speak in Africa, but we speak one language. We love our continent. I love Africa. I love my country, and I can't wait until we can all trade and do business together. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobo. Mokhtar?
Thanks, Aya. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So in my I think this is a very excellent question. An integrity Africa, in my imagination, is an Africa where we, African youth, are fully aware, have individually taken ownership, and have collectively provided the enabling environment to meet the landmark Agenda 2063, the Excellency Prof. Sarah mentioned earlier, because the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is just one among other flagship and catalytic initiatives of this landmark agenda. Thank you, Aya.
Thank you, Mukhtar. Aramide?
For me, I would say I look forward to a cohesive, collaborative Africa where, because business is reliant on people, interaction and relationships are key. So, Africans within country, especially young Africans, can begin to connect with each other, relate with each other, not look at legacy issues as to how, diverse we were, but look at the future. And that definitely starts from the mindset, maybe even retraining, unlearning certain things, and then looking at our identity. So owning who we are African, we're amazing, we are the best continent in the world, and we need to own that. Thank you.
I agree, we are amazing. Asia?
I agree, we are amazing first. So an interconnected Africa that consumes and produces African and connects the North to the South, to the East, to the West equally, fully, and inclusively. That's my Africa.
Super. Gatia, comment vous imaginez une Afrique intégrée? On vous entend pas, Gatia. Gatia, on vous entend pas. I will go to Rosaline until you fix your mic. Rosaline.
Désolé. Pour moi, je disais...
Ah, ok, super.
Désolé. Oui, je disais, pour moi, je vois une Afrique consciente, unie, prospère, forgée à l'effort et animée par les valeurs de panafricanisme que nous ont léguées, bien évidemment, nos pères fondateurs de ce concept.
Merci, Gatia. Rosaline?
Thank you. Indeed, we can do it. That's what I see. We have seen that when people, and particularly the youth, are given the necessary space and support, they have been able to come up with very creative innovations. The solutions are with us. It is said that if Africa was to increase their share of world trade from 2% to 3%, that 1% increase would generate about $70 billion of additional income. This is about 3 times the total development assistance Africa gets. Can you imagine what this would do in terms of positively impacting the socioeconomy of the continent? We can do it. Integration can do this for us. We can see a society supporting itself and using homegrown solutions to address their needs.
Thank you very much. And thank you all of you for that inspiring closing. Please give my panel a virtual applause for this excellent discussion. I think it's clear from our dialogue today that as young people, the Africa we want is borderless. We want that African passport for all Africans. We want digital transformation. We want e-commerce, e-citizenship, e-governance. We are already here in the digital space, so it's not the future, it's now. I think it's also clear that the Africa we want is where we value the contribution of women as business women. The Africa we want is where we value also the contribution of youth as drivers, not subjects of development, as drivers of industrialization and job creators, not only job seekers, as innovators and entrepreneurs. I think the Africa we want is also where transnational Pan-African solidarity can liberate us, and AFCFTA can bridge us, where a young Moroccan can trade in Mozambique, and a Somali youth can do work in Gabon, and a Burkinabe youth can trade in Sudan, and so on and so forth. So we have to eat African, produce African, dress African. Let us be proud of who we are, and instead of importing, let's export our Africanity, our culture, our fashion, our music, our products, our innovation, and our African genius. There is an African proverb that says, where you sit when you're old shows where you stood in your youth. And I think all of us young people in 1 or 2 decades, we know where we want to be, because we will spend our youth industrializing, integrating, and serving our continent. I look forward to hearing from Commissioner of Trade and Industry. For both Commissioners of HRC and Commissioner of Trade and Industry, being with us shows a commitment to the youth agenda. And we will continue to work with you, Commissioners, to accelerate the integration agenda, because Agenda 2063 is our agenda. We will be the one leading it, living it, and we will be the ones nurturing the next generation of Pan-Africanists. So thank you again, everyone, for your pertinent questions, for being here, for the whole dialogue. Over 380 participants here and live on Facebook. Thank you for being here, for asking questions, for participating in the polls. I hope you learned a lot more about AFCFTA today and how you can benefit and contribute, and that you will be advocates for the ratification and implementation of our integration. Please also participate in the last poll that will come up, and let's continue the conversation and continue to use the hashtag Youth for AFCFTA. Thank you again, and over to you, Cindy.
Thank you so very much, Aya. You know, every time you moderate a session, it's almost like we have to keep going, because you engage the audience, you engage the panelists, and I'm so happy today to have all the panelists that participated. It's very encouraging to learn and to hear from the young African leaders that we have, and from the elders as well. And I kept hearing, you know, an inclusive Africa, and Africa that is borderless, and that's exactly what we want and that we envision. So without taking any much of our time, His Excellency has been with us for over 30 minutes, so we're very grateful and thankful that he took time to sit with us for this panel, to hear from us. And as the envoy mentioned, we hope that beyond this intergenerational dialogue event, we will still be able to reach out to him and to the entire department for many more other coming sessions and, of course, discussions. And now, without taking more of your time, Your Excellency, I would invite you to give us your closing remarks. And over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. I'm very, very happy to have been with you this afternoon. I deliberately decided to log in so that I could hear what was being discussed. Very rich discussion, and I'm very happy. I was also monitoring the number of participants registering. The highest figure was 400. Now it's about 382, but the highest figure was 400. And this is one of the sessions which has the highest number of participants. So we congratulate you very much. Quite a number of times, I was requested to fill in a form or the survey regarding the knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I decided not to fill in, because I think everybody knows the knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. But the figures are very interesting so far. 31% have very limited knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. 22% have basic knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. 32% have intermediate knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And only 15% have advanced knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The choice is yours. It's very, very easy to have advanced knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I think we have a lot of material online where you need to go and look. Most of the times I say that the world is full of knowledge, but at the same time, very few people know about what is going on, because we concentrate on the other issues instead of developing knowledge where we needed to get it. So let us skew the survey to ensure that a majority of you have advanced knowledge of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Why? You are the leaders of today, and the leaders of tomorrow. You are the entrepreneurs of today. You are the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. You are the professionals of today, and you are the professionals of tomorrow. And the knowledge of the African continental free trade area will give you strategic insights so that you are able to come up with decisions that benefit you. So I encourage you, all of you, to have advanced knowledge of the African continental free trade area. I think I was very interested with the last question, which was posed by the moderator, the AU Youth Envoy. And she said, how do you imagine an integrated Africa? And I listened to the answers. They were all right, but I can reduce it to 3 words: African single market. That is what it is. When you have an African single market, what it means that each one of us, including myself and all of you, should now more or less change our mindset. Let us see the African continental free trade area as the domestic market of Africa. It's the only market, one African market. So that's how I would imagine the Africa that we need to create. One African market, African single market. So the task is yours to build it. And we can build it by moving from the African continental free trade area to deeper levels of economic integration. The next stage should be the African Customs Union and also the common market, so that we deepen. Then finally, we'll go to the African Economic Community, and in between, we have the African Monetary Union. But the first task is for us to really create the African common market. And when we've done that, we have what we call the African single market. And that is the task for the young generation to do. There was a question asked about the opportunities for the youth, African youth trade partnerships, and the skills. Yesterday, when we had the discussion on the African continental e-commerce platform, 2 instruments were launched. The first one is the Sukuk Central Market. This is going to be an e-commerce platform which is envisaged to create 600,000 SMEs between today and the year 2022. And all of you who are entrepreneurs, and I got a number that among the panelists, I think there were 3 founders of institutions. All of you who are entrepreneurs can, after this meeting, register on that platform so that you can sell your merchandise on that platform. The other, and that e-commerce platform is also in 4 years' time expected to generate $22 million. Not 22 million jobs, not dollars. Therefore, one of the issues which I was expecting the founders of enterprises, the youth founders of enterprises, was to tell the audience how many fellow Africans they are employing. I think that is something which is very, very, very vital. Then the other instrument we launched yesterday is the competition to exhibit at the Youth Startup Pavilion of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Intra-African Trade Fair, which is going to be held in September next year in Rwanda, Kigali. There are only 150 positions. And we encourage all those who are entrepreneurs and are involved in startups to compete. And we'll give the address to the AU Youth Envoy, but it's run by the AE Group, Trade Group, African Electronic Commerce Trade Group. You can find it online. And those who are going to win they'll be facilitated by linking them up with the venture capital firms. And our target is to generate deals amounting to about $1.3 billion US. So those are some of the opportunities that the youth have. But of course, those who are professionals within the African Union system, we have a number of arrangements for to involve the youth. One of them is the volunteer program. The other one is the internship program. But the most advanced for the youth is the junior professional officer program. And in the new structure that we are going to film beginning in January next year, almost all the departments we have junior professional positions, junior professional officer positions to give opportunities for the youth to come in. Another interesting issue is the question of the common currency. We are going to have an African common currency when we have reached the stage of African monetary union. And this is the most difficult phase of integration, because it's not just the monetary union, there is also supposed to be fiscal union. And in meantime, we are not going to frustrate trade. So we've teamed up with the African Export-Import Bank to come up with a Pan-African payments and settlement platform. It's going to work at 3 levels. The first level is that daily transactions will be in local currency. So you don't need to look for foreign exchange, you just settle in local currency. Then at an agreed period, there'll be net settlements on foreign exchange. And the traders are going to be guaranteed of payment, because if there is really a country that has problems in making net settlements in foreign exchange, the African Export-Import Bank is going to make a guarantee of about $3 billion annually. So basically, that is the starting point. It's as good as the common currency. So you have all the opportunities. Yes, I've been advised that the platform is not yet up and running for the youth competition for the startup pavilions, but you can just contact the African E-Trade group. They will be able to advise you when they are going to open. Now, as youth, I think, and I indicated that you are the leaders of tomorrow, the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. We are in a world which is moving towards the digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution. And I'm encouraged that quite a number of you are really already digital entrepreneurs. And I would encourage quite a lot of you to really go towards that direction, because without Africa leveraging the digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution, will not be as competitive as we want it to be. I think I don't want to waste your time. We have been here for quite some time. It was a rich discussion, and certainly we look towards your greater involvement in the affairs of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And once again, congratulations for being one of the panels generating the highest number of participants. You're a magnet, and keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for those wonderful closing remarks. And thank you once again for echoing, just as Excellency Professor Sarah mentioned at the opening, that young people are vital to the development of the continent of Africa, as they are the leaders of today and the leaders of tomorrow. And for also reminding us that we should change our mindsets to see the African Free Trade Area as one single African market. And I think Toba also mentioned that in here during the panel when that was being spoken about. So we are very much appreciative of your support, Your Excellency, today. And this whole event has really echoed again why we are here today, having this intergenerational dialogue to show that both the youth and the elders can definitely work together in bringing together the agenda to prosper Africa. And as young people, we're very much encouraged to see that our leaders, our elders are with us, not just ahead of us, but they are standing in the gap with us to co-lead, to mentor, and to coach. And so at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for being part of this wonderful event, to thank our 2 commissioners for joining us, to thank Ms. Aya Chebi, our AU Youth Envoy, the panelists, the team from ASFT, the AFTA, for our team from the OIE, and all of our distinguished guests, and for everyone who was able to log in on Facebook, everyone who was following on Twitter, and everyone who was here on Zoom. It's been a remarkable event, a remarkable afternoon. And just want to remind you and ask that if you are interested in finding out more about the Intergenerational Dialogues platform here at the OIE, you may do so, and you can email us at igd@auyouenvoy.org. You can also get more information on our website, and as well, you can follow us on Twitter and get more information about what it is that we're doing within the IGD platform. We have heard so many contributions from the panelists today. We are very excited to see what where we're going to be next year at this time. The commissioner also spoke about very exciting plans that are in place for those that are entrepreneurs. So we do hope that you will take advantage of that invitation. And so thank you, everyone. We will be ending our event at this time. I do hope you have a very wonderful afternoon or evening or day, wherever you might be. It's been my pleasure to be your MC today. And thank you again for being here. Bye-bye.
Merci. Au revoir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.